Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. Hope you enjoy. Story number 1. To Dance Like No One Is Watching. Written by Random 3X. Ocular was doing his routine nightly checks on the crew quarters, ensuring no one was up to mischief. Usually, he would find an odd game of black-tack being played. Maybe join them if it was a quiet night. But no such luck so far. Everyone who was diurnal was sleeping, arriving at the next door on his list to check. He could hear muffled thumping. His mind, in that instant, began to race. He was the head of security, but this was a basic passenger liner. The most he ever had to handle was a slightly too inebriated passenger. But the thudding and sounds coming out of the cabin sounded like an almighty scuffle. Pausing to take a breath, Ocular reassessed the situation. The human would have called for help if they were being attacked, so why could he hear such noises? Maybe the human was, Ocular shook his head, instantly rejecting that thought. That was not something he would want to picture, nor could he imagine him doing. The human droned on about his wife, children, and loyalty to that bond. Resolving himself, he slid the door a small amount and was shocked by what he was seeing. The human was in the sleepwear, but he was not in his bed. He was standing in the center of his room, his back to the door with a pair of headphones bobbing his head. Every so often, his body would twitch and pulse. Ocular was mesmerized. The human was bobbing its head rhythmically as he began to turn in a circle on the floor before finally facing the door. It was now that Ocular could see the human's eyes were closed. The sound coming from the headphones started to increase in volume as the human began gently bouncing on the spot. The muffled sound of the music was enough to even make Ocular start to bob his head. It was in an incomprehensible language. Then the human paused its bouncing and then held out his right arm, followed by his left. With a swift motion, he flipped his arms so the back was facing upwards. Ocular could feel the song's soul calling him, but he resisted interrupting what must be a religious ceremony of great importance. With smooth movements, the human crossed its arms across its chest. Then again, one hand on each side of its head, and then corresponding arm side. Ocular could feel his pulse quicken as the music tried to seize him again. But he resisted as he watched the human recross his arms, resting on the opposite hips. Again, with a swift motion, he moved his arms to the corresponding hips and gave his hips a spin. To finish it off, he jumped in the air and spun 90 degrees to his right. Ocular could recognize the human had started the motions and chose this moment to step in. "Human Allen, it's late. You should be in recuperation mode." "Ah!" Allen stumbled backwards half a step as his face instantly began to redden. "Is something the matter, Human Allen? Your face has become rather red." It's nothing," Allen stammered as he tried to shut off his headphones. Before he could, Ocular could hear one of the religious chants, Macarena. "I apologize if this was a religious ceremony." Ocular lowered his head in apology. What? No, it's not that." Allen's face began to go a deeper shade of red. "I'm practicing embarrassing dancing." "Embarrassing dancing?" Ocular repeated. "Yes, I've told you about my kids, right?" "Yes, many times." "Well, it's a dad's duty to embarrass their kids with lame jokes and, bad dancing. It's a rule, you know, but, well, it's hard to practice when you traded in a six-pack for a keg years ago." Allen gave a good-natured chuckle as he slapped his belly. "And that was the dance that you were doing?" Ocular asked. "Yes, it's an oldie, but it's still fun and easy," Allen replied with a nod. May I participate? The music called to my very being, and that was only what I could hear. And knowing such simple motions could be made in conjunction with it makes it all the more pleasing." Ocular near begged, "I guess?" Allen replied unsurely, "Okay. First, you do this." Ocular began mimicking the motions that he had only seen a moment ago. "And when the singer goes, Macarena, you jump and turn at the same time." "Let's do this," Ocular declared with determination, as the music started up again. End of story. Story number 2. An unfortunate accident, written by Rednull97. Yasin was bored out of his mind. He was a pilot on the Aryan logistics freighter, Transport 18. It was a well-paying job, but except for the starts and landings, it was about as interesting as the name of the ship he was currently steered. So he sat in his chair, on his private handheld, playing some mobile games. The offline versions, of course. After all, there's no Wi-Fi at warm. When suddenly, a soft ping commanded his attention. What in the name of, We got incoming! His human co-pilot Mark remained calm. What are you on about? We're in interstellar space. What should we have incoming? Yasin took a few breaths to calm down a bit before he answered. No idea. I'm just telling you that what the computer told me. I'm already running a scan. Mark tapped around his toe, while absent-mindedly answering, Yes, you do that, but it's probably just a false positive. We're out in the middle of nowhere. According to the nav, its next location of interest is about 900 light-years away. An old battle site from the battle about, that's no coincidence. From a battle about 1,000 years ago. For that distance, that's about travel time for, Sublight kinetics, Yasin interrupted with a panicked tone. Sensors show 4 projectiles, 2 solid slugs, 2 high explosives, speed at about 0.9 C. Impact in T-minus 10 seconds, starting invasive maneuvers. Too late for that. This thing's a 1-kilometer-long freighter, not a 25-meter fighter. Well, the good news is that the HE are probably long dead. They are so old they must likely long since gone inert, injected Mark, with a slight humor in his voice. Yasin could only respond, That's so. There any bad news with that? Yep. The kinetic energy alone, if completely converted, would equate to several nukes, if we're lucky. They'll hit nothing that puts up too much of a resistance, and therefore only obliterates most of the ship. Feck you, Isaac! And with a large explosion, everything went at first blinding white, and then pitch black. The next thing Yasin knew was waking up in one of the cargo holds. The human next to him, talking to one of the other crew members. Mark, what's going on? Oh good, you're finally awake. Don't make a Skyrim joke now. After the shells hit, I took you and the other crew down here into the cargo hold 5. They're all alive, more or less, well. But this here is the only airtight room left, and while the engines seem to be fine, the fuel tanks are completely dry. So for now, we're stuck here. Yasin sank back into his makeshift bed. Great! So we're alive, but stranded in minimal provisions. For about what? A week? I managed to send out an SOS, but we both know how likely it is for out here for someone to receive it, and if they do, they'll think it's a trap and ignore it. Mark let out a chuckle. Yeah, it's not the best of situations, but there is still one small possibility to make it out alive. The cargo. The cargo? But it's sealed. We have no idea what's in there. And the company policy, that's why it's only a small possibility. And do you really care about company policy right now? Yasin wanted to counter with something before he conceded. Point taken. So let's see, cargo hold 5, input password. Brock, it's some kind of beverage. That doesn't help us. Mark took the handhold, studied it for a few seconds before erupting into laughter like a maniac. You have no idea. This is exactly what we needed. What? Have you gone insane? How will this drink help us? Well, you see, that drink was destined for a human colony. It's called Everclear, and is about 95% ethanol by volume. So essentially it's better than rocket fuel, than our original rocket fuel. And a bit of jury rigging, and we'll be back in civilized space in no time. End of story. Story number 3. Heroic Last Stand, written by Echoing Cascade. Sam could hear the creature getting closer. It's just around the corner. Why did it have to attack now that the boss is out? Every fiber of his being told him to run, to hide, every instinct that there is no winning this fight. Sam took a quick look behind him and saw the infant in its cage, and, with a Herculean effort of will, stood his ground. If it thinks it can get him without a fight, it is going to be disappointed. As the creature and its whirling blades of death rounded the corner, Sam roared his defiance and readied himself for his last stand. And everything went quiet. Wait, what? Before he could wonder what had happened, a giant warm hand petted his head, and he knew things would be okay. Emma was vacuuming the house when she entered her son's room. There was a young puppy, Sam, trembling like a leaf in a gale storm, standing, barking, protecting the infant. She turned the vacuum cleaner, petted the brave little dog, and decided she would use the broom instead. Sir Orr wiped away a tear from his eyes. He had been sent to evaluate if humanity was worth uplifting, and he had watched the whole scene from his invisible perch. He began to write his report. Well, the jury is still out of humanity. Dogs are very much worthy of uplifting, and since they are a package deal, I guess humanity is worthy too. He stopped to think for a second and added, P.S. I feel there is a need to keep an eye out for cats, though. They are clearly up to something. End of story. I would quickly like to thank our Tier 5 patrons and channel members. Casper Arnholt, Cam Maxwell, it's difficult to pronounce, Lord Arishikal, Dragzoon WRE, and Arcadian. Thank you very much.